everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we make our friends watch movies that mean a lot to us and have them rip them apart piece by piece. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
And you can find us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste and on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. So today, you guys, it's an Austin pick.
Heck yeah, it is. Yay.
Oh, it's never a good time.
Well, I disagree. It's been a rough 2 weeks for me, so this was great.
Austin, why don't you tell us about the movie we just watched?
Yes, we watched Singin' in the Rain, considered by many to be the best movie musical of all time. It's just a fun movie, but I want to know what you guys knew about it, what your experiences with it were prior to watching it, because neither of you had seen it, right?
No.
Correct.
All right.
Well, I knew not a single thing about this movie except for the movie poster, I guess, of the three people and rain slickers and umbrellas. Obviously, rain is involved in some manner. So my summary, as it is old-timey, rain is involved, plus dancing. And then I think I've heard stories about how Debbie Reynolds was mistreated.
Yep.
That is all I know. I straight up, I knew it was old. I didn't even know who the male lead was. But, and I don't think I've ever seen a single other movie of his.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really didn't know what to expect at all. But I usually like older movies, like what I would classify as old-timey, pre-1950s style movies. I mean, okay. I know millennials will qualify 1990 as an old movie, but I'm talking about the 50s and below. But I usually really like those movies, so I had high expectations going into this.
Okay. That makes me nervous.
We gonna get real.
So weirdly, similar to Jackie, I realized I did not know much about this. Which is weird because my expectations had initially been low because I thought it was going to be a similar experience to Wizard of Oz, where like seeing it is kind of just like not as impactful because you know everything about it anyway, until I went to go write down the synopsis and I was like, oh, I do not know what this is about. So I wrote, just realized I know very little about this. There's Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and a third person. I think they are struggling actors. I know the song Singing in the Rain, and I know there's a famous dance sequence where they, like, jump over a couch. And that was it.
Nice. Yeah.
That's a lot more than I knew.
I will admit that I don't have much of a history with this movie, so I have a giant blind spot when it comes to, like, the classic movie musicals of the 40s, 50s. I haven't seen that many of them, so that's my goal for this year, is to like catch up on some classic movies. So there might be some more as they come in, because I do feel like it's an important, especially if I'm trying to watch like musicals, those are the ones to dig from. So so I saw this movie, I think for the first time like a year and a half ago, so fairly recently, and I just thought it was really fun. I knew the songs, I knew Singin' in the Rain. I used to take dance classes for the longest time, and I remember doing a routine to Singin' in the Rain, so I like knew the music and obviously the visuals of that number. That was definitely, Singin' in the Rain was definitely the musical number I was most familiar with. But I just think it's a really fun movie, and I was surprised when I watched it the first time that it was just enjoyable for me from start to finish. But I think that it's just fun, so I wanted to watch it. I guess I will give a synopsis since neither of you really knew what to expect. I didn't know much about it going in the first time I watched it either, but it's about, so it's set in 1927, I believe, right in the transition from silent pictures to talkies. It follows Don Lockwood, played by Gene Kelly, and his partner on the screen, Lena Lamont, played by Jean Hagen. And they're trying to make the transition to talking pictures, but the major problem is that Lena's voice is atrocious and they're not quite able to make that transition. Don Lockwood meets Debbie Reynolds' character Kathy, and they fall in love. She becomes sort of the voice for Lena in the pictures, and it's just kind of about the development of this new movie that they're working on. Little bit of a love story, lots of great dance numbers, good music. So I'm excited to get into it.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
I guess I'll just say the first thing that really jumped out at me, which is going to be the most obvious cliched statement. Gene Kelly can really friggin' dance, you guys. He's incredible. I know that there's a whole thing about him being the dancing man. Yes. But, like, seeing it is something totally different.
I know. I have a habit of ending up down YouTube rabbit holes. And so a lot of these, like I was saying, I haven't seen a lot of the classic movie musicals, but I've seen a lot of dance numbers from the classic movie musicals. And for some reason, Gene Kelly is a name that I know. Like, I can picture him, I can picture his dancing, but like, I don't know his work that well. So yeah, my rabbit hole for him started this past weekend. I've been like constant YouTube. He's friggin' amazing. Also, so charming. I know he was a bit of a drill sergeant, maybe not the nicest guy, but my God, he's attractive.
So attractive, you guys. He's so hot. He's got a little cute little scar on his face. And also, I mean, we don't have to talk about high points yet, but when he's wearing those wet pants and singing in the rain, his thighs are like tree trunks, you guys. It was shocking. I'm like, this is basically porn 1927, but what are you doing to me?
Yeah. No, I wrote the way he moves his hips. That was
crazy.
Yes.
It's just not, it's hard to, right, kind of qualify what I'm trying to say, but he's not what you expect a male dancer to look like, right? Like, he's so, like, powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? He's like, every move he does is like so strong. It's not graceful necessarily or like willowy. It's like punch dancing.
Totally. And it's like he could be a football player, right? Like, he looks like an athlete, like he's just like a big dude. And but yeah, the way he's able to move is just incredible. And especially, I was watching a video of him dancing with Fred Astaire, and they were both famous at the same time. And Fred Astaire's, I think, more trained in like the ballroom, so you can really tell the difference between the two of them. But yeah, no, totally, he's so fluid and exciting and strong and powerful when he dances that I could watch him for days, and I did.
I honestly, before this movie, and kind of still, but I couldn't pick either of them out of a lineup before. Their names were basically interchangeable. I'm like, you think of old-timey dance man, it's either Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly, and if you showed me two pictures, I couldn't tell which was which. So I don't know anything about Fred Astaire, but is he the same kind of build, I guess?
No, I don't think so. I'm also not, see, this is what I mean. My blind spot is embarrassing. They look very different. No, they're not built the same way. Fred Astaire's a lot more
lean.
More lean, yeah. I don't know, there's a really great video of them dancing together in, I think, 47. It's like the only time they dance together, and it's just amazing. Maybe I'll send a link or something, because it's yeah, it's just like, oh, these are the two like best dancers. But what about you, Jen? Thoughts on Gene Kelly?
I was genuinely really impressed that he also directed this movie. Yeah. I did not know he was a director per se, and then I also think like he did a good job, and for that to be like his third job, like first you're a dancer and then you're an actor and then you're also directing, like I just was really impressed, and I was like, and I think also that dance background really helped, because I felt like they did a lot of cool camera movements and stuff, and like the way he was trying to capture everything, I was impressed by that. I was just, again, like all around, this is a very talented man, so fuck you.
Wait, how many levels of threat is he? Like octuple threat?
Yeah, what's that about?
So rude.
Because he also choreographed a lot of it, right?
And can sing.
Yeah,
and
he sings. Jesus shit.
Right, leave some for the rest of us, alright? Like, jeez.
And he's super attractive. It's not fair.
I know it's so cliche to talk about like current Hollywood versus old Hollywood and be like, they just don't make them like that anymore, but they really don't. Like, there's no one even close to this level.
You think about what movies were popular at the time, like it wasn't just enough to be a dancer. You also had to do 17 other things and be that good at it. Especially, I don't know Gene Kelly's background. I didn't dive super deep into it. I don't think he did the vaudeville route, but a lot of the performers that came out of vaudeville are just like Donald O'Connor, who played Cosmo in this movie. Like he did the vaudeville thing, and you can see it. Like, he's fucking amazing. He's keeping up with Gene Kelly. He's like, my eyes were drawn to him a lot of the time too.
He is very slapsticky.
Yes, yeah.
Which is good. Like, he's has a lot of funny lines. Like, everything he does is funny. But that one big number of his about
make him laugh.
Make him laugh. Yeah.
insane. That shouldn't be physically possible.
No, we're definitely going to be coming back to that.
Yes, we got to go in depth to that insanity.
I did want to, Jen, you mentioned something that I wanted to bring up because it was something that I thought about while watching. In terms of the camera movement that Gene Kelly did for this, it is pretty dynamic. Like it moves around a lot, but I still feel like you can see everything that's happening. So I wanted to ask Jackie how she felt about that, because I know that that's been something that you've mentioned in the past, where when the camera's so tight in on something in a musical, it's like I want to watch what's actually going on. So I wanted to know if that resonated with you at all.
This was so much better than modern movie musicals, and it's because I think it's set actually outside of the room. You know, they're panning past the walls, like they're observing from a distance. It's not so in your face. Even full body shots of modern movie musicals seem very tight in a way that this didn't. You could always be removed, and then that meant they could take more of the space. Like you mentioned, the couch jumping, they're going from room to room on furniture, up and down stairs. It just seems more natural, and it didn't ever make me stop and think this looks strange, like take it down a notch. I really preferred whatever they were doing here. I don't know anything about camera angles, but it just had a totally different feeling watching it, and I liked it. I really liked this.
Yeah,
compared to Rent, like,
oh yeah,
it's such a mess, but this is like enough where you can actually appreciate what they're doing.
It doesn't mean that the camera has to be stationary. Like you can still move it and, you know, do exciting shots. Like at the beginning of Singing in the Rain, like it's like above him on the lamppost, and like there's a lot of movement and stuff. But yeah, he doesn't have to just sit there.
Yeah, and also just to what Jackie was saying about how the camera goes like room to room too. I also noticed, like, you don't really see this a lot in modern musicals, but the fucking sets were so like huge and sprawling. There's millions of extras. There's like, and it's a period piece too, so there's like pristine costume design. Like just everything about this was like spared no expense. I was very impressed.
Yes. Well, the costume designer did say that this was the hardest movie he worked on, and he worked on Gone with the Wind. But he said, you know, people that would have been watching this movie in the 50s would remember the fashions of the 20s a lot better than the people of the 30s would have remembered the costumes and fashions of the Civil War times. So, you know, there was a lot more pressure to be accurate and colorful. It's so colorful.
Yes, it's like neon. Like, I know it's like literally Technicolor, but just like that was that one dance kind of scene where there's just women modeling outfits in like a studio, and I was just like, just visually, this is like sumptuous. I love this. I was just looking at all the dresses, like I'd wear that, I'd wear that.
Really? I was looking at them like, what the hell were they thinking? That one has a giant fur collar that turns into a hat somehow.
To clarify, I was thinking if I was in the 20s. I also just, I don't know if we've ever discussed this, I love the 20s. This is one of my favorite decades for like everything. I'm obsessed with it. So the second I realized this movie took place in the 20s, I was like, I'm in. You got me. Where are the old-timey mobsters? Let's do this. Is it Prohibition?
I thought it was so cool too. I don't have any particular attachment to the 20s, but the flapper dresses, like, come on. That is so gorgeous. Anything with that kind of fringe, like, I'm not a fan of cowboy fringe, but flapper fringe can get it. So you're right. I didn't really realize, I actually never knew when this movie was filmed. I never looked it up. I didn't realize it was almost, 20, 25 years after it's supposed to be set.
Yeah,
it's about that. 52, probably filmed in 51, yeah.
Because it seemed totally authentic. It never seemed like they were trying to recreate a hugely bygone time. You know, like an old 1950s Western. It always has like a tinge of like, this is obviously a set and a movie. Whereas this didn't get that same vibe. Like the costumes were so good and everything from head to toe was so perfect that you really believed it. I loved it.
Excellent.
Loved the plot. Every dress, I was like, want it. And except for the fashion show, which was a bit much, but the rest of them was amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read you guys one of the notes I wrote down, because this is apparently a hot take. I wrote, Debbie Reynolds is truly beautiful.
Oh.
Whoa, what?
Wait, is Sandra Bullock also a good actress?
Yeah, again, hot takes coming from us, but I was just like, this was towards the end, because I think they did there's like a scene right at the end where she like turns
Oh my
around
gosh.
dramatically and it's right
so
on
she's
her
got
face.
like a tear on her face, tear on her
And
cheek.
I was like, what a fucking face. Like, no wonder they put her in movies. Like, beautiful woman. Jesus Christ. But anyway, yeah, that's my hot take on Debbie Reynolds. She is gorgeous and charming, and I did not know that she wasn't a dancer before this movie because she does a really good job. Like, obviously the other two are more dancers because there's a lot of scenes where she, like, their trio dance routine where she'd kind of be the one step back and they would be showing off. So I'm like, oh, I get it, but I did not know that she literally just wasn't a dancer and had to learn it on the fly. Like, holy fuck, impressive.
Right?
Even though Gene Kelly, like, beat it into her.
Yeah. She was 19 and she was under contract with MGM, and I guess Gene Kelly has one version of the story. Debbie's version of the story is a little different, where she says that she was basically told by Louis B. Mayer, like, you're going to be in this movie. Told Gene Kelly, like, this is your leading lady. And he was kind of like, can you dance? And she was like, a little. And that was that. And so he wasn't thrilled with the idea of having to teach someone how to dance. She was a gymnast, so she wasn't completely, she wasn't completely without experience in, like, putting extreme pressure on your body. But yeah, so they, like, trained for a couple months, I think. Very grueling, it sounds like. Gene Kelly was a bit of a tyrant and did not treat her particularly well. Sounds like he owned up to it. Sounds like he was like, I was not nice to her. It's amazing she still speaks to me, kind of thing. He would often make her cry. And so then he learned that if he wanted to yell at her, he would yell at Donald O'Connor instead. So, like, he would get Donald O'Connor would be like his whipping boy, basically, to be like, well, I couldn't waste time with her crying and, like, getting that all done, so I'm just gonna yell at you because I know you can take it.
Not sure cool that is a healthy workplace situation.
Yeah, I heard that he, like, made her dance until her feet bled, and I also heard he, like, Frenched her unwelcome.
Oh, I missed that one in my research.
Okay, I can tell. Oh my gosh, you guys. This is the first time I've ever had trivia. I'm so excited. So apparently I read somewhere, the last scene where it's wishing on a star or whatever, and they're looking at the billboard.
Yeah.
That was actually the first scene they filmed, and it was her first kiss with I think probably anybody. I don't remember if it's anybody, or first movie kiss.
Right.
And she said he immediately rammed his tongue down her throat, and she screamed and ran away. And so she said she was looking for a Coca-Cola to rinse her mouth out with. And he is 20 years older than this poor young girl. And she said it made her cry, and it was a horrible first, like, experience in Hollywood. But I think she had to get her skin toughened to work in Hollywood in that day and age.
Yeah. She had done a couple movies, I think, before that, but this was, I think, her first, like, leading role, and definitely training with the best of them, I guess. It was
she really is
trial by fire a little bit.
Yeah.
She really is fantastic, though. Like, my knowledge of Debbie Reynolds is older lady, white hair Debbie Reynolds. So to see this and try and reconcile that is very difficult. She does not look at all really simple. Like, I mean, if you really, really try and see the similarities, sure. She looks like an older version, but she's such a young, charming, she's, like, funny. You really, like, she's really, really likable.
Well, I love her character, Kathy, how feisty she is. And I love that she doesn't really take shit. Like, she gives him a hard time at the beginning there. And I just like how feisty she is. That was my note. But it sounds like Debbie Reynolds was talking about how she thinks the reason she was cast is because she really was that character. Like, she was very naive and very, like, kind of starstruck by the whole thing, but very innocent and didn't have a lot of experience under her belt and was kind of a blank slate for that.
She has very wide eyes to play a wide-eyed ingenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. She totally doesn't take crap, her character, for being a naive innocent, and then also she's the one who comes up with the plan to save the day.
Right.
So she's basically the heroine of this movie, and the guys are just kind of idiots.
So I would love to talk about the moment where she throws a cake in Lena's face.
Oof.
Like,
oh shit.
Yeah. Was she like, this is what I learned from the movies, and then throws a cake? It's fantastic.
I do also like that she was aiming at Gene Kelly, and then after she hits Lena, she's like, oh no, I was aiming at him. And I'm like, do you think that would have gone over better? Either way, you're throwing a cake at a movie star at a party where you're hired to work. Like, I love that she did it, because she's just like, you know what, guy, leave me alone, screw you, cake in the face. But, like, it was just so funny when they were like, oh no, she accidentally hit the wrong person with that cake.
I know, and then he's like, I feel so bad that she lost her job. And it's like, even if Lena hadn't interfered, that bitch fired. You can't do that at a job.
Yeah, she's not going to any more Hollywood parties if she throws cakes at movie stars.
I will say, when she throws the cake, it hits Lena, she disappears very well. I didn't even see her leave because I was staring at Lena. She does this like weird like reverse backwards slide out of the picture, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's not the first cake she threw. She knows how to get out of a situation. I like it. But Lena.
Oh, Lena.
Can we talk about Lena?
Let's do it.
Here's the thing.
Her.
Yeah,
Lena wears great hats.
I love her, and I kind of feel a little bad for her.
Yeah. She's...
Can I just make one comparison, though? She wears a hat that looks like Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element. It's essentially like a skull piece, and when I was watching it, I remembered when we were talking about The Fifth Element, and Jen was like, what was that? Did that have a function? What was the aesthetic purpose of that? And I'm like, it's a throwback to this moment. She totally wore that.
Amazing.
I'm embarrassed that I called him Gene Oldman.
There's a lot of genes in this movie.
Yeah.
But I feel a little bit bad for her up until the end.
Yeah.
See, I feel like the end, okay, clearly they're getting to the point where they're like, we need to have a happy ending for us so we can just throw Lena under the bus. But essentially, their whole plan is, let's make this in a way that suits my career and my strengths, and screw Lena over so my new girlfriend can get the credit. And I was like, hey now, this is a little harsh.
Yeah, especially because Lena is not a bad actress.
No, she was a famous actress before he came on the scene. Remember? He was working a stuntman on her movie.
Right.
So, like, she could transition. This was just the wrong vehicle for her to do so.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think she ever could have been in the talkies.
Well, that's it. I don't know if she was a good silent film actress. She wasn't without talent.
Here's where I disagree, because she had a real Harley Quinn voice. If they had put her in a mobster movie as some guy's, like, gun-toting girlfriend, she could have done fine. But then they wanted to be a musical, which is the worst possible choice for her.
Yeah, I wonder... Because in all the movies they referenced during the movie, none of them seemed very mobstery. Like, it seemed like the type of movie that was popular was historical.
Yeah, I don't think that was the era for mobster movies being made, but that's just what her voice would suit. So I'm
it would. You're right. But, like, with the previews and everything, she was tanking them. So I kind of
don't... So was he. They laughed at him, too, in that preview.
That's true.
So...
But it's kind of like they laughed at him because she set the tone for it to be laughable. I don't know. I think she was so resistant to trying, and she was so resistant to working with the diction coach. And then even when they had microphones, she refused to try to speak into the microphone. Like, she was just, it was basically, in my mind, her fault. She was unwilling to try. She's like the old guard who won't transition into what works for the new time period.
See, I see that, but I disagree, because I didn't think it was her job. Clearly, this is like a new technology for everyone, and they're figuring it out together. But, like, they couldn't figure out how to set up microphones so that it could pick up the sound of the actors. Like, that's not the actor's fault. That's the crew's fault. And then when they're playing it in the theater, and the sound's all fucked up and picking up weird things, I'm like, you needed a sound editor. That's your fault.
You're thinking about the technology in the 1920s. They literally have one microphone that they can put. They can't have like 6 microphones around her, so when she's moving her head, they're capturing all the sound.
But then, theoretically, if there's one microphone, like, they're never going to capture all the sound if it's, like, only everyone's just facing right at it. You know what I mean? They had to figure out a better way, and they couldn't. So I think it was everyone's fault this movie was a failure.
Everybody else could figure it out in the other talkie movies.
True, but, like, the studio couldn't.
I don't know. He was
Do you think in every other talkie movie at first, everyone was just standing perfectly straight into a microphone?
Well,
I think the actors could work with the microphone.
Kind of, though. Yes, Jen, I kind of do. I mean, not entirely, but they're like a lot of the kind of quirky situations that happened in this movie were kind of inspired by events that did happen, like because a lot of the crew, like I mentioned, the costume designer like had worked in silent films and stuff. Like we're at a time where there were people around who worked in the field at that time, and so a lot of the situations were kind of inspired by things that they had experienced or things that they had seen during these kind of transition times. And like the one thing, so for Lena, they have a mic in the plant that's in front of her, and she's supposed to speak into the plant, but she keeps turning her head, so the sound keeps coming in and out. And so they put it in her, I think on her chest at first, in like a flower arrangement or something on her chest, and then like that doesn't work, and so it's like on her shoulder for a while. And then when it was on her chest, it picked up her heartbeat, which first of all I was like, I don't know if any mic is like that good, but apparently that actually happened on the set. They did that to Debbie Reynolds. They had a mic in her blouse at one point to try to amp up the volume, and they could like hear her heartbeat during a dance number. So I don't know, maybe it is true. But then for Lena, they put it on her shoulder, and it's like, all the silly things that ended up happening. And apparently that like was a common struggle. And I know that in some of the early talking pictures, they did, it was kind of a little bit more stationary in terms of, we're a little bit more limited now in terms of what we can actually do. Also, when Dawn comes in and they're talking, and then she hits him on the shoulder with a fan, and it's this big, like, loud thunk that apparently happened on the set of one of these guys' movies. I don't know. So I think it was more real than we might initially think in 2021.
All right, that's fair. I still just say justice for Lena. I think she could have done fine.
I don't understand what you think could have happened. They should have given her more time to talk better in this movie?
No, I mean, I think in this movie, obviously, it's set up in a way so it's going to end in a musical. But I just mean, like, the movie before it was a musical where they just made some weird French period piece. I think it was a bad movie anyway.
I know, we need to talk about the movie within the movie.
Yeah, so I don't think the blaming it all on Lena, like, I don't think it was all just her fault.
I kind of think it's just her fault. She was never going to be able to pull this off. They already had most of the filming done, and they tried their best to give her a shot, and she couldn't do it, and it was like going to be released in a couple weeks, and they had to make huge changes. And they had to give her another voice. That was
also, there were actors who lost their careers with the transition, so
I agree. And like I don't think that necessarily having someone doing a different voice was the terrible, terrible decision. I just think the fact that he was like, I'm gonna make this a musical because then I'll look good.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just we're dubbing her voice into the movie. It was like, I gotta rewrite this myself so that I'm an amazing star showing how great I am. And then we'll dub her voice in with my hot new girlfriend so that she's a famous star now, too. And then Lena can just get kicked off stage.
So, well, they never intended to reveal that it was Kathy, right? They were always trying to bring
They were going to have a credit saying that Kathy did all the voice work.
I was actually
That is what would have fucked over Lena.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if, because, like, was Don perfect? I don't think he was perfect. Like, we saw him make mistakes and, like, fuck up with his props and be really loud and stuff. So yeah, it is interesting that it's like, I'm going to get out of this scot-free. But like, because I was going to say, would the dubbing have even solved all the problems? Like, I feel like...
No, that's why they had to rewrite it, which like, again, I understand for the movie and the movie within a movie, they had to make it something more exciting and splashy, so I'm fine with that. But I feel a little bad for Lena. I feel like she got the short end of the stick.
I still don't like Lena. I think
I love her. I think she's hilarious.
She should have lost her career and gone and done something else. She was not suited for movies once they turned into talking movies. And she was a bitch. She was mean, and she was always like, "Oh, Don, you love me." And he's like, "Listen, we do not have a relationship." She's like,
So, do you guys think is she the villain of this movie?
That's why I called her a foil, not a villain, because I don't think she's a bad person.
A villain.
I think, but for most of the movie, there's not even any, like Austin said, there's not a ton of conflict. It's not really till the end where she's like, I'm gonna save my career, and they're like, fuck you, get out of here.
That's when she's a villain.
I do want to give props, though, to Jean Hagen, who played Lena. Fun fact, jumping in right now with a fun fact, in the scene where Debbie Reynolds' character is dubbing for Lena, that is actually Jean Hagen's voice. That is not Debbie Reynolds' voice. So Debbie Reynolds dubbing for Jean Hagen being dubbed by Jean Hagen. You with me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Weird. Yeah.
It's actually, you can totally tell.
Yeah.
Because when they're doing that dubbing, I'm like, that doesn't sound like Debbie Reynolds.
No, it's like a very kind of almost, it's a very old Hollywood kind of voice, but it's really like deep and dramatic. And I'm like, that's not how she sounded a minute ago.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's Inception level.
So is that Jean Hagen's real speaking voice?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's probably closer, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I assume she doesn't talk like a super loud cartoon character 24/7.
I mean,
yeah, I wasn't sure how you guys were going to feel about that. I was like, ooh, this could be really annoying for them.
Loved it. I thought she was hilarious.
It was annoying, but it wasn't that much more annoying than anything else.
It worked because everyone else was equally as annoyed with her, I think.
But yeah, her voice was over the top. The Lena affected New York nasally tone.
Yeah.
I know they had to exaggerate it to make it be the conflict of the movie. Like, it's unbearable, but it was a bit much. I'm like, all right, like, no one actually talks like that. Please take it down. But what are you going to do? You need to make a conflict.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of things in this movie that are kind of exaggerated for comedic effect, and that was one of them. But I thought, I don't know. Again, I liked Lena. I thought she was funny.
Well, speaking of conflict, I feel like one thing I was surprised by in this movie was that the love story wasn't the conflict. Like, it's not much of a love story, really, but I just mean, I feel like in a lot of movies that, like, Gene Kelly, or I should use their character names, I guess, Dawn and Kathy's relationship would have been, like, there would have been some third act problem that drove them apart, and then they came together at the end. Like, there was for 30 seconds they had a fight backstage, but
yeah,
they were just like, okay, yeah, we're dating, we're in a seemingly healthy relationship.
I'm not sure I would go with healthy. They're both, I don't know, I don't really like their love story because it doesn't have any kind of anything to it. There's no depth.
Yeah, there's no depth in a lot of it.
I don't like you because you're famous. And then she's like, no, wait, I do. I do like you because you're famous.
She was playing it cool, Jackie, playing it cool.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know, it was all this games, and he's just, like, only after her because she's the only woman to ever reject him. And I'm just like, is this really the basis of anything, or is it just, like I said, Hollywood bullshit garbage?
Yeah, I didn't love or buy their relationship, and I actually kind of felt this movie could have worked just as well if maybe they were just friends. Like, if he had tracked her down because he felt bad for her because she lost her job, and then discovered she was super talented and was trying to, like, help her career, and the three of them became, like, a little friendly trio. Like, it would have been just as good. The only thing we're really missing out is, like, that one scene where he's singing to her about how much he loves her. That, you can kind of just cut that, and it's fine.
Well, the one scene where he's singing to her, it's basically a filler anyway. Like,
yeah. I will say, when the movie first started, I kind of was predicting in my head what the conflict was going to be. And you know how it kind of starts with, like, a red carpet? And then Cosmo comes first. The woman's like, yeah, whatever. You're his friend. I don't care. Then Gene Kelly comes and she's like, oh my God, amazing. I thought that was going to be the conflict of the movie where he's like, now I'm famous and my friend is left behind. And the friend's like, I'm all jealous because you're the famous one with the hot girlfriend. But then that was not a thing. And they were both just besties.
Yeah. I totally thought the same thing. I'm like, how is he okay with his lot in life being totally reduced to second fiddle music guy? And it never comes up. He's just cool with it the entire time. He's super helpful. He super calls Dawn on his shit and helps him with his problems, and he never seems to resent him for a second, which is totally unbelievable.
Well, he's also, like, making bank. He got promoted to, like, head of sound at the studio. Like,
yeah.
That was
he's
pretty
doing
random.
all right for himself.
I don't know. I didn't buy that either. Like, the studio head is so nice and so on their side and so willing to help them. I'm like, this isn't the kind of cutthroat studio head we're used to experiencing.
Yeah, especially if that character's supposed to be based off of Louis B. Mayer. Don't think that's how Louis B. Mayer rolled.
I don't think they go around trying to make people's lives better and offer promotions at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Although I suppose it could be a transition that would make sense. Like, he's going from playing piano in the silent movies to somewhere working within the music department at the studio. And then
he's head of music.
I'm just saying.
No. I'm just wondering. Is he head of music, they made him head sound? Of music. I'm like, he doesn't have any experience with sound and microphones and electronics.
No, I think he's the head of the music department.
Yeah.
Fair
so
enough.
it's at least like
It's
a trajectory that makes sense, but it's a little sped up.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys know the face of Mad Magazine?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what that guy looks like.
A little bit. I see it.
I do not like his face. I like his character. He's a solid dude in this movie, but I'm like, your face is punchable. I do not enjoy you. But he's also extremely talented. I like watching him do things, but it's very off-putting. Were you guys just like fine with his big?
I knew you were gonna hate his face shtick in Make Him Laugh.
Hate.
So I wasn't sure how you were gonna land on him, but
the thing I would do was whenever he was doing anything, I would watch from the neck down. Fully. I hate the over-exaggerated facial expressions and his weird like lippity do.
Well, I just watch movies now looking for things Jackie's gonna hate and like preparing myself for how to defend them.
Why is no one watching making predictions of what I love or hate? It's all about Jackie.
I'm the star. It's because I'm so unpredictable. Who knows what I'm going to hate? I don't even know until the next day, and I'm like, I hated that. But seriously, that face stuff was so annoying, right?
Loved it.
And you liked it?
Yeah, sorry. Make him laugh was my favorite part of the movie.
Let's dive in. Let's dive into the musical
I love
numbers.
The slapstick. Yes. It's so good.
Okay, well,
Jackie has to
face,
go.
I know that I've harped on his face. It sucks. When he does stupid face stuff, I don't enjoy it. And then, I mean, I also love this number. Like, he does so much.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate it in a way where it's just impossible to conceive of doing this. Like, the amount of strength and stamina and ability, gymnastics, dance, insane. But I do not like when he just flops around on the ground like a dead fish. Like, are you having a seizure? Did they accidentally keep rolling during you having a seizure from over dancing?
I have a question. I don't know if Austin knows the answer. Maybe. Do you know the part in that scene where he's kind of on the floor turning in a circle and like laughing or whatever?
Yes.
Did that originate from this? Because I've seen that in so many things.
I don't know.
Simpsons.
Yeah, obviously Simpsons.
Yes, it definitely originated in The Simpsons. I don't know if this is where it originated. It reminded me of my childhood TV show, The Big Comfy Couch. I am apparently speaking to people who have never seen The Big Comfy Couch. But she did a stretch on a clock, and she basically, I don't know, she just like moved her legs as if she was a clock, and that's what it reminded me of. Just go with it.
All I can see is Homer going, whoop, 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 whoop,
yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've seen like stuff reference that where they're kind of just like going in circles on the floor, and that kind of had that moment during the scene where I'm like, was all of that referencing this movie? I'm just learning it now.
A ton of references to this movie, and I started making a list of just the things that I caught, and I'm sure that there's 100 more.
I actually do have a question too. I don't know if Austin will know this, but the Make 'Em Laugh, was it all one take?
I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me. I can't remember.
It looked like it.
I can't remember.
It looked like it.
Yeah, I can't remember if there were any cuts in there.
I can't imagine that. He's busting through walls and doing backflips.
It exhausted him. He came up with that. Gene Kelly was basically like, you need a solo number, go do it. Like, go figure it out, like, do what you want. And that was like his sort of shtick. Like, that was kind of what he could do, like, in his own acts and stuff. So he just kind of messed around, and basically whatever he did in the rehearsal room ended up being what they did on set. And he used to do stuff like that a lot when he was younger, and he said by this point when they were filming Singin' in the Rain, he was smoking like 6 or 4 packs a day. And so doing that, like, he couldn't, they said I think they had to like lower the angle of the wall so that he could do it. Like, I guess he used to be able to do it when it like more steep. They had to make adjustments so that he was able to do it still.
Yeah, same. I could totally do that if it wasn't for the fact that I smoke too much now. That's really what's stopping me from backflipping off a wall.
Yeah, the angles was stopping me, actually.
Yeah, it's just,
I
used to be able to do it.
But apparently Gene Kelly, after, was like, oh, that was great. You think you could do it again? And Donald O'Connor was like, kind of jokingly, like, oh yeah, anytime kind of thing. And Gene Kelly was like, great. So you're going to have to do it again tomorrow because they fucked up the camera and it like fogged up the lens or something. something. So they didn't get any of it. So he had to redo it. And he said that he was he had exhaustion. He was in bed for like 3 days afterwards. Because it's a concrete floor. So he's absorbing all that pressure on the falls and stuff and bruised shins and just.
He does fall a lot violently to the ground.
Yeah. So,
Do you know how old he was when he was filming this movie by any chance?
I could find out.
But if he was in his 30s now, say, like that, you start to slow it down.
Well, he was born in 25. So.
I don't know when this was made.
25, 52. 27? He was 27? Is that how math works?
Yeah. Yeah, so he was like still obviously in his prime, but I imagine even without the smoking, things wouldn't be coming maybe quite as easily as they used to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think again, question for Austin, which you might not know. I love that we're just piling questions on you. But I assume a vaudeville stage is wood. It's probably springy, whereas this is a concrete set. Does that sound right?
I mean, that sounds right to me.
Love sounding right.
Also, would it have killed them to put down some, foam pads or something? Some plush carpeting for the man? I know that would fuck up the dancing, but,
he has to tap.
4 legs, yeah.
I just love the part where he's behind the couch with the mannequin. I don't know how he can move his body that way. Fighting against gravity like that. I don't understand.
This is
he's
a
probably
weird
ripped
comparison. Yeah, but also when he was doing, the face stuff, too, it really reminded me of, early days of Jim Carrey, where he was really doing that physical comedy and could, contort himself into all these different things. And I was just like, damn, it's just so weird when people can do that. It's so impressive.
Yep.
Yeah. He is
obviously Jim Carrey can't dance like that, but
I mean, have you ever seen Jim Carrey dance?
No, I haven't. It's true.
Maybe he can. What can't he do? But I actually, even though his face sucks in all ways, he's great in this movie. He's also very charming. And I think the fact that all 3 of the main characters were on the same team all the time made it really wholesome.
Right? Yeah. I think that's what I was getting at when I was there wasn't really much conflict. There's Lena at the end, but I kind of just like that it's just, here's 3 people that get along really well and they work together really well and they're good at what they do. And here's just a fun hour and 40 minutes of them being good. Especially
when it comes to movies about Hollywood, because usually there's some big betrayal, backstabbing, it's portrayed as such a dog-eat-dog industry, and this just is we all want to do good and make our money. I also love, we know Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood, but I do love how you see little snippets of how things are done or how things were accomplished in older movies. There's a part where they're walking through a set and you see it's a train or something and they're cranking the scenery behind it. I just like those little moments. Oh my god. I love when they're filming the silent movie, but they're trash talking each other the entire time. That was so funny. He's trying to be all romantic and he's you're an evil snake. I was could they actually do that? They're so talented that they could be having a totally different conversation than the action they're supposed to be doing. Yeah,
and then there's one person in the audience who can read lips who's wait a minute.
Clearly, I feel almost everybody could tell that is not what they're saying. But it's so fun. I loved that whole thing. They're having a whole other conversation, and everyone is hearing them, and they're just okay, and act 2, you swoon. It's great. I hope that's how it really was. I really do. I'm sure people got away with some bullshittery. Oh, yeah. My favorite musical number of this movie is Good Morning, and I was curious if you guys recognize this song.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did not know it was from this movie yet again, but I did recognize it once they started doing it.
Same.
It brings me, again, just so much joy.
That's nice.
Yeah, right? I just like it. I just like a good tap number. Also, I wanted to ask both of you, but I know Jen watched it recently. Did you catch the reference that shows up in Buffy? There is a Buffy reference. Sorry, Buffy references this scene, and I'm curious if you caught it.
Yeah, so there's a scene where Gene Kelly stakes a vampire.
Or he sleeps with a sexy, brooding vampire. Is it during Once More with Feeling?
Yeah. At the end of Xander and Anya's song, they
Oh,
fall
they,
back
like,
onto an
collapse.
orange couch
Yeah.
laughing. I'm like, oh, that's this. And it's literally like an orange couch, too.
That's cute.
Right?
And it's the whole thing is so similar. The flappery style, very brightly lit room, using all the furniture and surfaces and running around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Right?
Look at me getting levels in Buffy now. Feel so smart.
And then Anya's mad it's not a breakaway pop hit.
Just more of a retro pastiche.
Yes.
But yeah, so this is one of the scenes that took hours and hours to film. This is where Debbie Reynolds had to like be carried off set because she had burst like blood vessels in her foot and there was like blood in her shoes. They had to film the going over the couch like 40 plus times. So, and then whenever he falls back, or whenever they all fall back, does it not look like Gene Kelly sits on her? Because that's what it looked like to me. It looks like he misjudged the space a little bit.
I love that they're all like, ah ha ha ha, I hate my life. Like the laughing, you can tell is tinged with a little bit of like pained hysteria. Or just like, please let this end.
Yeah, tell me that was the last take.
It's just so good. And I can't believe that Debbie Reynolds wasn't a dancer. Like, like she's not at the same caliber, I guess, as Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly, but she holds her own. Like she looks great. I guess Gene Kelly decided to redub her taps, so that's not like her tapping isn't hers, but like she's doing the moves. He just redubbed the sound.
This is a great segue, for me to ask Austin to explain how tap dancing works, because I don't understand.
Why do you assume I know how tap dancing works?
I'm looking at their feet, and then sounds are coming out, and I'm like, but how fast are your feet moving to be making all of these noises? I don't understand.
I know, and I took tap when I was like 4.
Oh, so you are an expert.
I am an expert. My 1 year of tap has really...
I took 1 year of jazz tap too.
Oh, both of you. Please explain tap to me.
I don't know. One of my biggest regrets is quitting tap. And if you'll recall from our I, Tonya episode, one of my other biggest regrets is quitting figure skating. So I really,
You know what?
Really
it is never too late. You can go pick that stuff back up.
Jen, I know. When in the after times, while Jackie's taking her waltzing lessons at the waltzery, I will be taking tap lessons. And It's going to be amazing.
We're going to have a dance-off.
Oh my god.
And I'm going to win.
I don't know about that.
I'll be the judge, I guess?
No, we each have to bring one form of dance.
You could be modern dance, interpretive dance.
I don't think so. I don't think we found a movie yet that has a version of dance I want to try.
I'm picturing you dressed as Kurt Russell with a flamethrower, just dancing around the stage.
That's me.
I'm like, okay, well, you win by default because you burnt the stage down before anyone else got a chance, so I guess you win.
But to answer your question, I don't physically understand how tap works.
It shouldn't work.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. Because it's like there's taps on the front and taps on the heel, but they also like tip the toe and the back of the heel, and they can all make different sounds.
And you like move your foot really fast back. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, how fast is your foot capable of moving? Because I know how fast mine are capable of moving. Not very.
I don't know. It's so true, though. When I was trying to stare at their feet and like line it up with the sound, it was a blur. I can't even conceive. My eyes can't understand how fast they're moving. No, but I have a question for you guys, too. When you watch the three of them dance, who are you focusing on?
I honestly have watched, specifically, just if we're talking about Good Morning, like, I think I've watched that so many times that, like, each time I'm like, okay, this time I'm going to focus on Debbie Reynolds. Okay, this time I'm going to focus on Gene Kelly. Because, I think, it's hard to take my eyes off of Gene Kelly, honestly.
Yeah, that was exactly what I thought, too. I think it's something about the way he smiles. Mm. His smile never really looks fake or pained, which is a skill when you're doing incredible athletic feats. Yeah. Usually people look like they're suffering, but he makes it look so happy.
Easy. He makes it look just like he's just having a grand old time, just going about his day.
You're right, Austin. You look a little flushed.
I'm not all right. I'm a little flushed here. Getting a little
You can see her fanning herself like, ooh, my. Gene Kelly. Sorry, but he's dead, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's how Austin likes him.
I
Sorry.
was going to come in with a fun fact, but I don't know how fun it is, really. That, did you guys notice the little Rita Moreno cameo in this movie?
I did not. So it was when I was researching after the fact, I discovered that was Rita Moreno, but I did not know while watching it.
No, me neither. She plays Zelda. She's like at the start. She's like the big like it girl, Hollywood it girl. She's the only surviving cast member of this movie.
Oh wow!
Right? Not that fun of a fact. Maybe I'll.
Not that fun.
I mean, it's fun that Rita Moreno's still alive. Put her in a bubble, protect her at all costs.
Yeah.
Right? I loved that red carpet vibe. I loved it. I don't know why, but the movie opened and I was like, I'm in. Technicolor and fancy people and Hollywood drama. Like, I don't know why. And then the way that Don and Lena come out with their like super Hollywood smiles, and then they do a whole interview on the red carpet where Don tells his life story.
I actually love that scene. Can we talk about that briefly?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love how they did that, where he's kind of narrating, being like, I grew up rich and glamorous and Hollywood just fell in my lap. And while he's saying it, it's showing him being like poor and struggling and standing on a bus stop in the rain when he's like, I arrived in sunny California. Yeah. I just thought it's so simple, but it was so funny and clever. I really enjoyed it.
It was such a great way to get to know the character, get to know his background, him and Cosmo too, because they grew up together, right? And like, it's just such an efficient way to firmly place you in the movie. Like, you know everything you need to know, and you know these characters. I don't know, it's just, and there's like some really good dance numbers in there in the middle of that like fit as a fiddle vaudeville.
Yeah, they're definitely not playing those fiddles.
Oh, there's only 2 strings on it.
Can I also say in that scene, I got really into the stunts. I was like, this movie's about a stunt man? When he like backflips after getting punched, I was like, that's fucking awesome. I'm into this. Like, dude, you've drawn me right in.
The motorcycle off a cliff?
Yes.
He literally, the stunt man for Gene Kelly as a stunt man, whoever that stunt man was, he flew like 200 feet down into a river. Like, he might have died. He might have straight up paralyzed himself.
We have word on if that stunt man survived.
I don't even know if I want to know. But I do love that the only way he got into Hollywood is by, like, sacrificing his body and abusing it. Like,
yeah,
he really, you know, he struggled, which is, it makes him even more charming.
Totally.
That he can still be such a cool dude.
And it kind of, I just like that idea of, like, the Hollywood kind of like the fakeness in a way, and then seeing the reading between the lines and seeing the real side of him. I really like that. I thought that was a great way to introduce the characters. And
I like the way that set up Don and Lena's relationship too, because when I first started, I'm like, oh, they're together, and this is going to be about a movie about him breaking up with her for a new starlet or then fresh young face, and I was like, that's going to be hard to swallow. Mm-hmm. But they were never together, and that just clears the path completely for Kathy. Yeah. Which I enjoy. Give me that black and white, baby. I just want things to be easy peasy.
Yep. This movie is easy peasy. I freaking love it. Well, 2 other...
Austin's struggling.
I'm struggling. I'm sorry. I got that Gene Kelly fever here. Speaking of Gene Kelly fever, let's talk about Singin' in the Rain, the title number. I say speaking of, because he had a fever of 103 when he filmed this.
Oh, he's hot. He's hot wet, you guys.
He already had a fever when he jumped into the rain to perform. Like, that's just making it worse. You're going to get even sicker.
Well, that's the question I have. Like, did he get sick from doing, like, 2 days of shooting this, and then he was continuing to shoot while ill? Because you're right. Being wet and I'm assuming really cold, it's like a recipe for disaster.
I don't know. And the problem with doing movies like this where kind of everyone quote unquote knows them, and there's some Hollywood lore involved with a lot of them, so it's like I don't know how much of this is true, you know. Like I watched a handful of videos or interviews with people, and it's like they all tell the same stories. Like I don't know how much of this is just come into it later or exaggerated, or you know, it's also the studio system, so news got out in different ways, you know, because the studio really controlled what news was available. So like I don't know how many of these things are true, honestly, but yeah, I just kept thinking how gross my feet would feel.
Yeah, and how heavy his clothes must have been.
Yeah,
so soggy and wet. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't feel like they would have had really great materials to make his suit out of, so it's probably just like a sodden woolen suit.
I was gonna say, that era, that is a wool suit he's wearing.
Geez.
That is heavy and wet and gross.
And, like, I don't really get how happy you are that you're okay with being super wet. Like, I'm happy a lot. I still would prefer to be dry. And, like, he has an umbrella. You could use it. You do not have to get soaking wet.
I was just going to say, I don't mind walking in the rain sometimes, but I need an umbrella.
Right. But it is, again, he does seem really happy and sweet. Although, like, the one part that annoyed me is that he goes under, like, a pouring rain gutter spout, and he's just like, wee! And I'm like, well... That's a bit much. Sure, you can dance in the rain a little bit, but I don't think you're going to be like, soak me to death. Like, waterboard me with this gutter, please.
Yeah, that probably also has, like, dead leaves and stuff in it. Twigs.
It did make me want to go and kick in a puddle, though. Like, right at the end when the cop is starting to see him and he's just randomly kicking, that is fun. I want to put my rainbow boots on and do that.
He had the street repaved for that. Like, he was like... there should be puddles. And so they had to pave the road again. And just like the coordination of that and the planning of that, I don't understand. Like, this is a really impressive scene to me. I don't know.
And the whole lamppost thing is, dare I say it, iconic.
I'll say it.
Although I thought, in my mind, picturing it, I thought he had a yellow umbrella. And I think
he does in the, like, promo or posters. I don't know, because you're right. I totally associate it with the color yellow. But no. I do like when he sees the policeman, though, and he slowly gets out of the water and, like, shakes off his shoes. And
I did find that funny. I like in musicals where there's that kind of almost like meta moment where there's one person who's not in the musical who's kind of just like, I'm sorry, why are we singing and dancing, you crazy person? So I was like, that'd be me. I'd be the cop being like, what is happening?
Did you see the way he walked away?
Yeah.
He was like, his arms were swinging super wide.
Casual.
It was great. Man, he works hard.
Right? Okay, before we get to the elephant in the room, I believe, when Jackie said things went sideways.
Oh, yeah.
Can
we talk about that?
So before we get to that, can we just take a sec? One more scene, one more dance. The Moses Supposes, which is one of 2 songs that was actually written for this musical. They're all previously written songs. But
that was awful. I really hated that musical number. Oh. It was so stupid.
Oh, I wasn't listening to the words. I was just watching their feet.
Even still, I was just like, why? You have so many things you could be singing about, and this is what you're singing about in this location with this strangely wooden man who you use as a prop.
They're like tiling stuff on him.
That man was also, like I was saying, the person who's not in a musical. He was always just like trying to leave and they're like pulling him back to keep dancing. I'm like, again, this would be me if somehow my life was a musical. I would be like, I don't know why they're singing. I'm going to leave.
This is you when Jackie and I learn our new
Take your dance classes, yeah.
I don't know, like, I like every other scene, every other musical number was so directly related to something that was happening, and this was just like, we gotta throw in some more dancing and singing, let's pick a random topic.
Fine by me. This is like, I just can't get over the synchronicity of it, and like, I mean, I don't care about the song is bad. I don't like that. I don't know what's going on with the vocal coach guy. Like, come on. Like, you go show some autonomy. Like, you can stand up and leave. But like, I just love it. I also love how it like starts with just Donald O'Connor like saying like Moses Supposes in like rhythm, and then just like gradually builds into a tap number. I think it's so cool.
His face is annoying again in that one.
This was another scene where I was like, I think I'm understanding references more now, because I know, Austin, you mentioned earlier too, like Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood. So there's a couple more recent films about old Hollywood that kind of I was reminded of during this movie, and one of them is Hail Caesar. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
Oh, I've seen
the Coen
some
brothers.
of it. I haven't finished it.
It's really good, really funny, but there's a scene where one of the actors like can't speak, so the guy's trying to like voice coach him the line, and it just is one scene of them back and forth, and it goes on for like 10 minutes, and it's hilarious. But that's just all I could think of when they were in the room with like the diction coach. I was like, this is the Hail Caesar thing. I get what's happening.
Yeah. It is kind of fun to go back and watch movies that you're like, oh, that's what this is from.
Yeah.
And then I guess where the movie kind of goes off the rails for some strange reason.
What the hell happens? I don't even understand. I think I was writing a note and I missed the entire transition. I'm like, Where are we?
So, okay,
So Gene Kelly held a dance recital in the middle of his own movie.
Yes.
Or he had a weird psychedelic drug trip and then came back to Earth.
So, okay, within the narrative of the story, in case you missed it, Jackie.
Yep.
They're bringing the movie to the studio for a screener, for screening it, seeing what they've done so far, and then he's like, great, so we just need that one more scene, and he's like, yes, this is what it would be like. And so he describes the scene, which is this big Hollywood big dance.
It's a historical French movie.
Because they said we need something it's going to be the scene for the modern day, and so this is why I wanted to talk about what the hell this movie in the movie is, because it's this like historical romance that's all of a sudden a like young whippersnapper comes to New York and like.
So when they're first trying to figure out how to make this a musical, and I think Cosmo's the one who's like coming up with the ideas, and the studio head's like, I'm gonna give you another promotion or something, but his suggestion was basically like, oh, it's gonna start in the modern age, and then he's gonna bump his head and then think he's in like the Renaissance era in France or something like that, and that's how we'll use the modern dance but also the period piece scenes. And I was like, guys, that movie sounds terrible, first of all. But then when they were describing this scene, I'm like, so there's a 20-minute dance number before this guy hits his head and it's a whole other fucking movie?
Well, that's the thing. It's not even just a dance number. There's a whole plot in this weird dance number, which I did not understand, and I thought it was really, really weird. I'm like, did Gene Kelly have a clause in his contract that he gets to, like, make out with 2 beautiful women per movie? Because who is this woman? Why is...
It's Sid Charisse. She's a ballerina, very famous dancer.
But who is she in the context of the movie?
I just got excited
Nobody.
about Sid Charisse.
Yeah, why didn't... Like, wouldn't it make more sense to put Kathy in the movie?
Yeah, they were going to. The logistical reason that they didn't is that Debbie Reynolds couldn't keep up. She couldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that because it did seem very ballet heavy.
Yeah.
I do know one thing about this scene, which is that the woman, and what was her name again, Austin?
Sid Charisse.
Sid Charisse is taller than Gene Kelly, so he refused to have any scenes of them standing face to face, side by side, without adjusting the scenery to make it look like he was taller. So when they're actually dancing and you can see their full body, she'll always be in a diagonal or a lean or a squat. Like, she'll never be standing up straight because he was so insecure, which I think is hilarious.
How tall was he? Was he short?
I don't think he was especially short.
I think she looked incredibly
tall. Yeah.
And then I think she was wearing either point shoes or high heels as well.
I think she had high heels on. Yeah, because I read that it was her first time not dancing in ballet shoes. Like, it was her first time dancing in heels, so she had to adjust that.
I mean, he seemed tall-ish. He didn't
5'9".
Okay. That's fair.
On the shorter side, I guess.
Yeah, shorter side of things. Not short, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed the scene where she had the big, long, flowy
my
weird...
gosh.
Yes, the veil.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that was cool. But, again, the whole time I'm like, what am I watching?
I know, that's my thing with this scene, is that it's amazing. Like, it's its own really cool, like, at least 10-minute segment that's like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Look at the dancing. Look at the costumes. Okay, I'm here for it. But what movie am I watching? Like,
totally. And I'm very surprised that Gene Kelly wanted this part in, because it's a whole section about where he's trying to get this girl who keeps rejecting him, which does not seem like a very I'm a leading man decision.
But that's also now like the fictional character within his fictional character's role. So it's like 2 things removed from Gene Kelly, where he's like, well, I get all the ladies, but this guy that the guy I'm playing plays.
Oh boy, you're right. The male brain, man. Revolutions and justifications.
But yeah, I think I'm on the same page as Austin, where I was like, technically this is all very good dancing and, you know, lovely stage work. I loved the thing with the veil. I don't know how they did it. But why is this happening? Why am I suddenly in like a dance troupe performance? Like, what does this have to do with anything?
So many people were involved in this in so many different ways.
It was a huge scene. And like, I was kind of like, I can't believe this is the end, like, how they're finishing the movie, and then it wasn't, so I was like, what was that? That was just like an intermission!
I love when he sees her across the room and the entire ensemble freezes, and then they go into the veil dance, and then they come back and they unfreeze.
Yeah, and they like
It
are
was
matched
cool.
positions. Like, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy the rest of it. I didn't like the whole cityscape. I didn't like the stupid guy walking with the briefcase who wasn't Donald O'Connor. It was some other guy because Donald O'Connor couldn't make it that day or whatever. It was
I think that's true. Yeah, he had like a TV.
That's why he's wearing like a Groucho Marx type glasses. But I don't like the way that style of walking, like the over-exaggerated, almost doing the splits type busy 1920s man walk. I was like, get this guy out of here.
So random.
I know, I get really weirdly picky about certain things. I'm like, that one guy, out. Everything else, great.
Everyone else, you can stay. Just one thing, Jen, you asked how, or you didn't know how that scene was filmed. Like giant ass fans pointed in every direction. So they had to like first test it out to see, okay, where do these fans need to be to blow the veil in what direction and like for how long. So that was a whole other choreograph.
And not knock you over?
Well, that's it. She's I know Sid Charisse was saying that she almost lost her balance like multiple times. It also made it more difficult for Gene Kelly to have to lift her because there's extra just like being swept.
Wind resistance.
Yeah, wind resistance. I just think that was so beautiful. So it was worth it. Whatever they did was worth it.
I think in general in this movie, I did like a lot of the humor. So I did like, once that scene finally ended after like 37 hours, the studio head was like, I just can't picture it. And they're like, well, we'll have to show it to you once it's done. And I was like, okay, at least they're being a little like tongue-in-cheek about it.
This movie is funny. Like,
I didn't know it was going to be a comedy, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I thought that it was so fast-paced. Like, there were times where I was like, what did they just say? Like, the dialogue is fast. It is snappy.
It is snappy. The back and forth. It's very old Hollywood movie. I love it.
Yeah.
Very, very witty. I did really appreciate that, but I needed the closed captioning on.
I thought of that too. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
No, I think we've covered most of the main points, and I think, I'm good to get into some high points and low points. Who wants to go first?
I will. So, I feel like my high points are usually very superficial, and guess what? I'm following that trend. High point, Gene Kelly's thighs. Straight up. They were a shining beacon, and I was into it. He is great. Like, I just want to watch him. I would say his entire thing, not just his thighs necessarily. I mean, mostly his thighs, but he's so watchable. I just want to see him. And he, like you said, Austin, he makes it look so effortless. He's always got that big beaming smile, like he's having fun. And I want to see that in people who are struggling physically. I want them to look happy. So I'm going to narrow it down to his thighs.
All right. That's maybe our most specific high point ever.
They're pretty specific thighs. And then low points, like it was hard to find a low point for this one. Like you said, it's not very controversial. It's fun and wholesome. So the only two things I could kind of pick on were slight background racism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was
like some hula appropriation. There was a whole movie being shot that was supposed to be African natives doing some stereotypical things. I'm giving it a pass because of the time era it came from. But when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's bad. Not loving that. Yeah. And then the other thing, which isn't about the movie itself, but just the idea of Gene Kelly being a little bit awful to super young and like little naive Debbie Reynolds feels not great. I do like that you said that they seem to reconcile and he acknowledged his shitty behavior. That makes me feel a little bit better, but it's hard to think about how sad she was during some parts of this, and that's not great. But I also kind of don't think it's a unique experience of the time. So
that's the struggle doing a lot of these like studio system movies.
I mean, even some of our more recent films had these kinds of issues on set. So sadly, it's just something that happens too often in Hollywood / the world. Stop being mean to women.
Right. Jen, what about you?
So my high point, unlike Jackie, instead of being so specific, I'm going to go so broad because initially I was going to say just all of Make 'Em Laugh was my high point because I think that is so great. But also just in general, a lot of the comedy throughout this movie, I liked that it was funny. I actually laughed out loud at a few things. I was like writing down quotes like I'm Jackie or something. Like I just found it really funny. And I enjoyed that aspect of it because I did not know this was going to be a comedy going in. I thought this was going to be a romance.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, you're actually fun and entertaining? This is exciting for me.
I'm so glad you said that. No, because I feel like I had a similar experience when I watched it the first time, where I had a friend who was like, you need to watch this, and I was like, okay, fine, let's watch it. And then I just like enjoyed it, like laughed out loud, like really genuinely enjoyed it. So I'm glad you had a similar experience.
For my low point, I guess I'm gonna go with that really long dance number. It was still great dancing, so it's hard to call it a low point because it was really well done. It was very beautiful. They're very talented, but it was just like, it was eons, and I didn't understand why.
I'm with you.
So random.
Very confusing.
For me, my high point, I think my high point is just the number Good Morning. I think I don't know, it's just one of those. I have a couple of staples that I always go back to, and I feel like watching a video that I know is going to cheer me up or just make me happy, that's in the roster. So that's up there. I just love, like you mentioned earlier, Jackie, just like the use of the furniture and like going up and down stairs and kind of the different styles. And I also like when Donald O'Connor puts on Debbie Reynolds' hat. That was kind of funny. That made me laugh. Anyways, I just think it's great. For a low point, I don't really know that I have one. I think I kind of agree with both of yours. Like, the little background racism jumped out at me. So did obviously the random ass ballet montage, which I loved. Kind of seemed like something you'd see at the end of a Carol Burnett show episode, which is another thing that I am speaking to no one on. But
what are your references in this episode?
I was
Couch and Carol Burnett.
Austin's a Renaissance woman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say to that. But anyways, it was great, but what movie was it? It wasn't Singin' in the Rain. So yes, I think that was probably my low point as well, but not because it was bad, just because it was weird. Kind of took me out of the moment, I suppose. Do you have any quotes, Jackie?
I have a couple. Halfway through, well, no, probably 20 minutes into this movie, I was like, I can't write down all these quotes. There's too many. So good. Everything is hilarious. I really loved a bunch of them. So awesome. I'm going to give a couple. I love this one. Totally. It was early in the movie and I was like, oh, I'm going to love this. Because this woman's watching Lena on the screen and she goes, she's so refined. I think I'll kill myself. I was like, oh, yep. I'm in. So there's just so many. I mean, Cosmo has a lot of really good ones. He says, sorry, I'm looking them up on my phone now because I couldn't write them all down. Something funny.
Was it call me a cab? Okay, you're a cab.
I did note that because I was like, I'm sorry, that's so stupid, but it's fucking hilarious.
It dad joke, if there ever was one.
Cosmo's very dad jokes. He also goes, she can't act, she can't sing, she can't dance. A triple threat.
Yes.
And then he goes, oh, I'm out of a job. At least I can start suffering and write that symphony. And then he gives him a promotion. He's like, great, I can stop suffering and write that symphony.
I love that too.
Cosmo also says, haven't you heard? She's irresistible. She told me so herself. A lot of his very clever lines are burns at Lena, which I'm into.
I did write down one, if I can interrupt your quotes
Please.
For my own quotes for a second.
Quotes it up.
Gene Kelly was like, I forget how it started, but he was saying something to Lena where she's like, you really want to be with me? And he was like, I'd rather make out with a tarantula. And she's like, you don't mean it. And he just casually goes, hey, Joe, can you bring me a tarantula? And I like died. Because I'm like, first of all, what if they did? Second of all, just really good line delivery on that one. I appreciated that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. A lot of like kind of subtle jabs, not so subtle jabs, just like very witty overall. Yeah. I wrote down right at the beginning the announcer on the red carpet when I forget which stars are walking by and she goes, they've been married 2 months already, but still as happy as newlyweds.
I like that.
I think I'm good with quotes. The last one I have is, the studio's going to keep their stars and looking ridiculous at any cost. And Cosmo's like, nobody's got that much money. Hey, Lena sucks. That's my addition. yeah, Cosmo really, like, he has a lot of clever lines that he kind of, you don't expect him to, because he's presented as such a side character, but that he's always interacting with the studio head and putting his 2 cents in and making these silly jokes. And I like it. Like, he's not just the sidekick. He's way more involved than I expected him to be at the beginning of the movie.
Totally. Yeah, so for some trivia, well, first of all, the budget was $2.5 million, which was a lot at the time. The box office was about $7 million.
So a modest hit.
A modest hit. Yeah, it got good reviews. Like, it was well received. It's another one of those that once it started getting TV broadcasts and stuff, the popularity grew and became more popular. And it was always well received, but it kind of just became better received as it went on. This is number 5 on AFI's Best Movies of All Time list. Oh, yeah. So apparently, again, this is one of these stories that Debbie Reynolds told a lot. So I'm not sure, how it actually went down, but sounds like at one point she was just worn out and really upset after rehearsals, and she was crying in a rehearsal room, and Fred Astaire came in because he was working on a movie, on another lot, and came in and invited her to come watch him rehearse for his movie, which he never did. Like, he wouldn't let anyone really watch him, but he saw that she was really struggling and let her come in and watch him, and saw that he got frustrated too. Like, it was hard for him as well, and so was kind of like, see, it's worth it. Like, the hard work's worth it. And so she kind of got a little pep talk from Fred Astaire. No big deal.
Oh, that's so nice.
Right? And then so yeah, only 2 songs were written especially for the film. So this is, which I didn't realize actually. Most of the songs were written several years before. Singin' in the Rain, I guess, premiered in 1929. So the 2 songs that were written for the movie were Moses Supposes and Make 'Em Laugh, which is very similar to another song called Be a Clown, that they were just like, no, it's a different song. It's a totally different song. It's not. It's the same song.
Uh-oh. Was that in another movie musical?
I think it was in another Gene Kelly movie. I forget.
Oh my God.
I forget.
Gene Kelly's like, listen, guys, I wrote a great song. No one's ever heard a song like this before. They're like, we played it for you yesterday when we were filming the other movie.
He's just crossed the other writer's name out and written his own below, and he's like, here's the song I made.
This was apparently Gene Kelly's kind of trump card to get out of his contract with MGM. He was angry at one point that MGM had repeatedly prevented him from taking other starring roles. Like, apparently, I guess he was either offered or he was up for consideration for Guys and Dolls, but wasn't able to do it because of his MGM contract. And so he was angry at the studio. His extremely hostile attitude released him from his contract. Basically, they were like, you're a dick. Goodbye.
Wow. I mean, I kind of think that's astounding. How could you be that big of a dick when you're such a talented moneymaker? Like, right. You must have been real bad to get fired.
Yeah.
So that the Broadway ballet sequence took a month to rehearse, 2 weeks to shoot, and cost $600,000, which was almost a fifth of the budget.
For what?
I mean, I'm not surprised because it was so elaborate, but literally that, to me, that's almost just like a Gene Kelly vanity moment where he's like, I really need another showcase for myself. I need another scene about how amazing of a dancer I am, so he's got to work all this in.
Yeah.
Right, he needed more of a romantic ballet-ish kind of movement.
Most of the characters are based on real people, which would have been references that people would have probably gotten at the time. Obviously, R.F. Simpson, the studio head, is a parody of Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM. Zelda Zanders, played by Rita Moreno, is based on Clara Bow, who was referred to as the It Girl, silent film actress. Roscoe Dexter, who's the director, is based on Eric von Stroheim. And Olga, the vamp at the premiere, that's how she's listed, is based on Pola Negri and Gloria Swanson. I think we've had a couple of movies in the past that got derailed by world events. Their premieres got derailed by world events, and this film is no different.
Wait. Hold on. Let's try to guess. What happened in 1952?
Well, it was think back. So the film's network television premiere was scheduled for November 23rd, 1963.
Oh, assassination.
Yeah.
JFK, that's
assassination.
So it's the car. the gun.
So, like Franz Ferdinand?
He was assassinated on November 22nd, so the day before it was supposed to premiere, so it got pushed 2 weeks. And then This is the highest ranked film on the AFI's 100 Years 100 movie list. That it was not nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It was nominated for scoring, and then Jean Hagen was nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
She didn't win, did she?
No.
Because I feel like her support was just to be kind of a joke, right? Like, it doesn't involve tons of acting.
Such a Lena hater, my
Sorry, she didn't. She just had a novelty voice.
But I will say, okay, two things. One, as the Lena enthusiast, I think she did a great job. But two, like, let's not act like people have won Oscars for, like, only great acting roles ever. Like, there's people who do not deserve the awards that have them.
Names.
So she would not be the worst.
Names.
Jen.
Never.
Who didn't deserve their Oscar? The Academy is listening.
If you guys think back to our I, Tonya episode, I didn't think Allison Janney deserved it.
That's true.
That was an incredibly one-note performance, along with Lena here, so maybe she would have been in good company.
Well, the thing is, they tend to be like, okay, you've done a lot of good work.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
It wasn't Lena's turn, or Jean, whatever's turn.
What other movies came out this year?
Yeah, so what other movies from the 50s are you guys familiar with?
Yeah, not a ton.
I know. I was like, this is going to be a weird year where I'm going to be like, has anyone heard of this? So Singin' in the Rain was not in the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, which kind of surprised me because it's the only one that I really know of. So the number one film was called The Greatest Show on Earth. Number two was The Snows of Kilimanjaro. Anyone even heard of this movie? Also, there was a Moulin Rouge film that year that was also top the box office. So I'm like, is that also a musical? I don't know this Moulin Rouge. But yeah, the big, like, Oscar movie that year was The Greatest Show on Earth. And then The Quiet Man, Come Back Little Sheba. So there's some movies that did not stand up over time as well as Singin' in the Rain. But I will say, Donald O'Connor won Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. So, good for him.
Good for him. Deserved.
Good for him, definitely.
Which means he beat Gene Kelly.
Oh,
he's Best Actor, not Best, like, Supporting.
Yeah, Best Actor.
Shit.
I mean, I don't know if he was the better actor, but he worked and worked and worked. I get that.
Yep. Ratings?
Yeah. I really liked this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much you cannot like about it. I love the wholesome feeling. The dance is incredible. The music's okay. And it made me want to watch old movies again. Like, it hit all those great points that you recognize from old movies. The snappy kind of dialogue, the old clothes, kind of simple storylines, generally happy feeling. It was good. I really enjoyed it. So I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a couple things that I didn't love, but overall, definitely 2 thumbs up.
Yay.
And then for quality, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Amazing.
I straight thought this was crazy what they did with this. It didn't look as old as it was. The scenery is beautiful. The costumes, I didn't really think about the camera angles until you guys mentioned it. But yeah, there's a lot of overhead shots. It lets things be big and people move all over these giant spaces. It was just incredibly well done, I think. I had no complaints about quality.
I debated how I was going to rate this movie because I like to be stingy. I like to be a little harder, but I think similar to Jackie, I really enjoyed it. I did not think I was necessarily going to like it as much as I did. So I think enjoyment, I'm going to give it an 8.
Amazing.
That's
basically a 10 coming from Jen.
Yeah. There was like you said, a couple things where I was like, okay. But overall, I had a great time. I was laughing. I was into it. And like you also said, or it does make you kind of just remember how much you like old Hollywood movies. So I'm kind of like, I could be down to watch more of these, Austin. I'm down for your classic film experiment.
All right. I'm sure there'll be a few more that pop up.
Yeah. And then same quality-wise, it's so well made. Everything, the dancing, the choreography, the sets, the backdrops, the staging, the way they moved room to room, the costumes, so it's a 10 on that. There's no flaws there.
I'm so happy, you guys. I honestly wasn't sure how this would fall. I was like, I know that this is a good movie, but who knows? I was prepared. I didn't know what to expect, but I was trying to be prepared for the worst. Yeah, I'm giving it 10 out of 10 on both enjoyment and quality. I had a great time watching it. I was like smiling the whole time. I laughed out loud a few times, and yeah, it's really refreshing how it's just an enjoyable watch, and great music, great dancing. I will watch tap dance. Like, tap dancing is like the way to my heart. Like, you want me to like a movie, just throw a tap dance number in there. Jen, if you have any horror movies that have a tap number in the middle, I love it.
I'm Googling. I'll find one.
So yeah, I don't know. I love it. And quality, you guys said it really well. It feels fresh and it's so well done, taking full advantage of all the techniques that they had available at the time. It still looks really good today. Can't really complain. 10 out of 10. Yes.
This is a rare, everybody likes it.
I know.
So rare. Has this ever happened for an Austen movie?
Yes, it
Chicago.
has.
Oh yeah, you're right. You know what? I don't know. I get the same feeling from both of those movies, you know?
Yeah.
They're just fun and happy.
Yeah, and they're just like solid, well-made films. Like, you know,
so that's
more of that, please.
Yeah, give us solid, well-made films, Austen, not like Annie.
So my friendometer, so green.
Super green.
Super green. I don't know
Green
which way
week.
the friendometer goes, but it is.
Yeah, I assume it goes this way, but I don't know.
I go this way.
Am I breaking my arm? Like, what am I doing?
Whatever, it's in the green, wherever that is. Maybe the green's here. But I feel good. I've really, it's been a long time since that I haven't resented Austen making me watch a movie, so I feel good.
That's true. That is a good point. Yeah. Thanks, Austen. You finally came through.
So confused.
We don't hate you this time.
Well, I've been planning out my next couple picks, and I'm scheduling them in order of like, okay, they'll probably like this one. Oh, they definitely won't like this one. Okay, they might like this one. I'm trying to alternate.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Nice.
What are we watching next week? It's Jen's turn.
Oh, it's Jen's turn. Oh, no. We were up here, and now we're crashing right down.
Oh, no.
There goes the friendometer.
You know, I'm gonna stick with my original plan. I don't think you guys will like this movie, but I don't care because it is a classic 80s horror. Evil Dead. Sam Raimi. Okay. Bruce Campbell. We're doing it.
It's not as bad as I was expecting it to be.
Concept of what that movie is.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Cool.
It is delightful.
That I do not believe.
I already take issue with that description, but okay.
Full on a lie, but all right.
Yeah, our definitions are always very different, where I'm like, this is a fun and enjoyable movie, and you're like, no.
Jen, this was a fun and enjoyable movie.
Yeah, Jen, use this as your barometer, okay? This is fun and enjoyable. Dogs getting, like, covered in acid, not so much.
This was just as fun as watching people getting ripped apart. I'm sorry.
Your brain is a scary place.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps us up for Singin' in the Rain. A very successful and rare week of agreement. So that was fun. I had a swell time. Next week, we're going to be talking about Evil Dead. You can find us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste or on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. We also have a website. It is ihateyourtasteinmovies.wordpress.com, and there is a link there to our merch. If you like what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. It really, really helps. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.